أنا بعض الأحيان يجي يومين 3 أيام من دون أكل، فأنا أضطر أعطيها سكر أو موز.
في 6 أيام ثم استوى على العرش الرحمن فاسأل به خبيرا. وإذا قيل لهم اسجدوا للرحمن قالوا وما الرحمن أنسجد لما تأمرنا وزادهم نفورا. تبارك الذي جعل في السماء بروجا وجعل فيها سراجا وقمرا منيرا. وهو الذي جعل الليل والنهار خلفة لمن أراد أن يذكر أو أراد شكورا. وعباد الرحمن الذين يمشون على الأرض هونا وإذا خاطبهم الجاهلون قالوا سلاما. والذين يبيتون لربهم سجدا وقياما. والذين يقولون ربنا اصرف عنا عذاب جهنم إن عذابها كان غراما. والذين يقولون ربنا اصرف عنا عذاب جهنم إن عذابها كان غراما إنها ساءت مستقرا ومقاما. والذين إذا أنفقوا لم يسرفوا ولم يقتروا وكان بين ذلك قواما. والذين لا يدعون مع الله إلها آخر ولا يقتلون النفس التي حرم الله إلا بالحق ولا يزنون. ومن يفعل ذلك يلقى أثاما يضاعف له العذاب يوم القيامة ويخلد فيه مهانا.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. So inshallah, before I bring my guests on, I want to introduce the topic that we are going to discuss tonight. As per the post that I put out earlier, this is a part of a series of discussions that I have been having with the Muslim men in the Muslim community about some of the issues that have been troubling us as a community. And tonight's discussion, inshallah, is a very interesting discussion. As you guys have, some of you have followed along, then you know that I've had Brother Hassan Clay on. I've had some other brothers join us, and we have been discussing, various topics related to. Okay, I see him on here now. All right, so tonight my guest is Brother Malik Abdullah, who's going to talk about some issues related to the African American Muslima. She's a very unique, character, very unique individual within the African American Muslim experience. And I think that there's some angles that, as Muslim men, we need to consider moving forward. So, inshallah ta'ala, I'm waiting for Malik. I just clicked for him to join us. So, waiting for him to come on, inshallah. So some of the issues that we want to discuss tonight is the uniqueness. Number one, what it means to be an African American Muslim woman. What does that mean? how do we look at her? And I think that as African American Muslim men, I think this conversation is very important to us. It's very important that we understand, very important for us to understand how unique her role is. Number two, also, when we're looking at an African American Muslim woman, there are things that I think as men that we are not considering when we go after marriage. We're not considering the age brackets. We're not considering the socioeconomic status of the African American Muslim woman. African American Muslim women, depending on the particular age bracket, you are obviously looking for something. You're going to receive something depending on the age bracket that you are seeking. And I think that as Muslim men, we don't look at it in that particular sphere. We don't look at it from that perspective. We just say, oh, I want to get married. But okay, which age bracket are you looking into? If you're looking from 20 to 25 or 20 to 30 or from 28 to 35, all of the women that are in those age brackets, they present a particular, unique type of disposition. And sometimes as men, I don't think that we think about it like that. And talking to him during the Eid, as he was explaining these things, and I'm like, I'm kind of taking notes, and I'm like, that's a very interesting perspective. We don't look at it like that. The other thing that we need to also think about is, her previous marital status. Her previous marital status. If a woman is been married previously, then that means that, number one, there's a strong possibility that she's had, either a negative or unhealthy experience in the past, which comes with its own set of challenges, or she's had a pretty positive and healthy experience, which also comes with its own set of challenges, because as a man, if you've had some negative experiences and she's had nothing but positive, healthy experiences, then she's coming in your life to help you to evolve. And if you as a man don't have a growth mindset, then you are not ready to evolve. So that means that all of the things that she's bringing to you to help you evolve, you're not going to be accepting of those things because you're not ready yet. You're not ready to evolve. You're not ready to grow. You understand? You're not ready to grow yet. Or if she's had some, negative experiences, then that also presents some challenges. Still waiting. We're trying to work this out, inshallah. So, if a woman has had some, a previous marital experience, then it's either going to it will either have been healthy or unhealthy. If it was unhealthy, then that also presents some challenges. If you are marrying a sister who has been married before and she's had some challenges in her previous marriage or marriages, then that means that you should be willing to accept that. You have to understand that, she's going to come sometimes with some emotional baggage. She's going to come with some unprocessed, emotions, unprocessed things that you have to be willing to be patient with. A lot of times we hear these broad strokes, right? We hear these broad strokes that, Black Muslim women, they come with a lot of baggage. Well, if she's been married previously or she's had some relationship experiences prior to marriage, then what did you expect? What did you expect? So are we using this as a cop-out? Are we using this to say, well, she's obviously going to come with some baggage, so let me just kind of do me? Are we using this as a cop-out, or are we really taking a closer look at the type of dynamics that African American Muslim women are? And it's not just African American Muslim women, but that is my audience. That is who I preach to. That is who I talk to. That is my experience. That is the experience that I am speaking to. But, this pretty much goes for women of all cultures, cross-cultural lines. This is not something that is just restricted to African American Muslim women. All right. 1 second. So I'm trying to work this out. All right, so we're waiting. We're trying to work it out. The other thing is, women who have children. You have a lot of brothers who, don't want to marry women that have children from previous relationships. Okay, so then that means that, what are we to do with the sisters who have children from previous relationships? And if you do marry a sister that has children from a previous relationship, are you ready to, fulfill that role? Are you ready to fulfill that role of, step parent, bonus parent? Are you ready to fulfill that role? Some brothers want to marry the sister, but they don't necessarily want to be in a step parent or bonus parent role. And, if a sister has children, you can't have one without the other, Alaikum, Malik, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, brother.
Hey, salam alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
MashaAllah. Look at that smile, man. MashaAllah. Huh?
I told you I don't know nothing about this, man.
Yeah, well, we got you. We got you on. Alhamdulillah. Can you hear and see? Are you good?
Yeah, I can hear it.
Okay. Alhamdulillah. Thanks for joining me, man. Thanks for taking some time out of your day and, spending some time with us, man, to share, what you're going to share with us. And we're all ears, man. We're listening from all angles. So I was just kind of introducing the topic to the community, introducing the topic. If you could just tell us, just give us about 60 seconds about what your profession is, and so people know that they're not just talking to anybody.
You're being kind. Well, I currently work in the legal department for Warner Media in the area of contracts. I'm a lawyer by profession.
Okay.
My undergrad degree is actually in theology and Christian religion.
Okay.
And of course, my advanced degree is a Juris Doctorate in law. So
okay.
I'm from New York, and I'm in Jersey now. And
shout out to Jersey.
Glad to be here. Yeah.
MashaAllah. Okay, so great. Alhamdulillah. So the topic that we were talking about during the Eid, I just wanted to kind of share that, open it up and kind of share it with the community, because I think that a lot of Muslim men as well as women can kind of benefit from some of the things that we were discussing. So one of the things that we discussed was the unique role of the African American Muslim woman. Why is her role unique? There's a few components there. When you say African American Muslim woman, those are three very unique traits. And so a Muslim man approaching a woman like that, what does he need to understand about those three things?
Well, I think as you just stated, the fact that there are several elements in what you just said. African American, that in of itself brings a certain cultural uniqueness in and of itself, right? And then she is a woman, and that in and of itself also makes her a very unique human being in terms of how she functions and how she processes things and how she operates. Mm-hmm. And then the fact that she's a Muslim, I believe, makes it even more unicorn-ish, right? Because a Muslim, first of all, she's dealing with all of the things with us as black men having to deal with being black, right? Mm-hmm. Being African American. So there are all of the stereotypes. There are all of the sociological pressures. There are all of the economic pressures that comes with being black. And then I think being a Muslim is unique within itself, and being a Muslim woman is even more of a uniqueness. Because, for example, right, just a practical example, mm-hmm. During 9/11, right, most of us were around during 9/11. And it was a tragedy. It was a terrible thing that happened. But the backlash from that, most brothers didn't feel that backlash because outwardly maybe a beard would tend to give people the impression that we are Muslim, but then again, that's a hit and miss, right? Because
Right.
a lot of people wear beards and they're not Muslim, but the woman wearing the hijab had a special burden during 9/11. You know, she was egged, she was stoned, she was molested, she was harassed, you know, in the street. And so that uniqueness that wearing a hijab brings, that uniqueness of that identity, I think must be taken into consideration by brothers, because they actually bear the burden of Islam from just a physical looking at them perspective, right?
Right, and
I think that's unique.
And we were talking this morning, not to cut you off, we were talking this morning about how, you know, we try to, you know, as Muslim men trying to stick closely to the Quran and the Sunnah and the, you know, the understanding of the role of the woman and how her role has kind of evolved due to the evolution of the societies that we live in, and still trying to keep her in this stay at home, wear all black, don't show your face, don't go outside, a woman's place is in her home. And, you know, in doing so, we've kind of limited her role more so than what the Quran and the Sunnah has done.
Yeah, and I think that's unfair, because the Prophet ﷺ didn't do that, right? I mean, there are guardrails that are set up for women in Islam that are necessary guardrails, right? But those guardrails is not meant to oppress, and those guardrails are not meant to limit her individuality and her growth and those kinds of things, right? I mean, today, like in the time of the Prophet, you had those guardrails there to protect the woman.
Right.
Right? Whatever those guardrails were, they were meant to protect her, they were meant to look out for her, and they were meant to highlight her uniqueness, right? Now society has evolved, and it has evolved in a way that the role of women are not what it used to be. But those guidelines, those guardrails are still important for her. They are important for her because they still protect her, and they are still not meant to oppress her.
Right. And not just that society has evolved, but black women within our society have evolved. They graduate universities at higher levels than men do. In many regards, they are higher earners than the African American, male, their counterparts. So
I am fortunate to have 4 daughters, and each of them have advanced degrees, right? Meaning master's degrees, right? I mean that's just the way of the world now. They are very ambitious. They are very independent. They are very bright, and they are go-getters. And I think that the role for women, thank God, has evolved, because they, a lot of times, especially the black woman, bears the burden of the black race almost, right? Because they have to wear multiple hats. This is not to say that men don't wear multiple hats from time to time.
Right.
I mean, single parenting is not unique. I mean, black women don't have a monopoly on single parenting. Single parenting goes both ways. There are single men as parents, there are single women as parents. But by and large, right, generally speaking, the women have borne that burden for generations, right? And as a result of that, there needs to be some deference given to the black Muslim woman in the society now, because she has all of the burdens that came culturally, all of the burdens that are here from a society perspective.
And then she marries a Muslim man, and then he comes in and adds to that burden.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate that us as men don't sometimes have the emotional intelligence that we need in order to be the best men that we can be for the women that are in our lives, right? See, the problem, Imam, is this. The problem is this, right? As we were saying when we talked at the Eid, I mean, if I asked a doctor how did they become a doctor? Who taught you to be a doctor? They can give me the school. They can give me. If you ask me about, well, how did you become a lawyer, brother? I can tell you what school I went to, my professors, my mentors, so forth and so forth. The same for a plumber. The same for an electrician. They interned under someone. They apprenticed under someone. And then they came into their own.
Right.
If I ask the average black man, who taught you to be a man? Okay, he has to think for a minute. Right? 9 times out of 10, no one has actually taught him how to be a man. And many times, the person teaching to be a man in a lot of our household is the woman. Right? Now, you can help someone come into their manhood, but surely you can't teach me to be a man.
Absolutely.
If you're not a man yourself, right? So you have all these men out here who have never been taught to be men. Now, the problem is with that, if you are not taught to be a man, then you kind of going it on your own.
Right. You winging it. You shooting it from the hip.
As you go. You're winging it. Right? So you're doing the best you can, okay, trying to be the best man you can be, and halfway through that process, you get married, let's say. So now you're still trying to be a man. You still haven't fully evolved. You still haven't arrived. But you're trying to be a man with a woman with you. Now you've got kids, but you're still trying to evolve. You're still figuring it out. You still don't know. And now you're trying to be a man with a whole family.
Wow.
Right? And the burdens of manhood eventually catches up with you. Halfway through, you get frustrated and you just walk away and say, man, this is, so a lot of the problems that we face is systemic. A lot of the problems we face is inherent within who we are and the cards we have been dealt.
Right.
But it is our responsibility to do better.
Right.
It is our responsibility to not just sit down on our hands, we say in law, and try to figure it out.
Yeah.
You have to spread your wings. You have to read. You have to develop relationships.
Relationships with other men. This is key point. This is a key point, and that is that men, especially men who did not grow up around other men or did not grow up with a father or other male figures in their life, it is highly important for them to attach themselves and to, surround themselves by men so that they can learn. I mean, even things down to, I'll give you an example. Years ago, there was a particular brother, and in the Salafi community, wearing a thobe was kind of like, it was a staple. All right, that was kind of the way that they identified themselves religiously, by their dress. So this one particular brother, he wears the thobe, and he was looking for a job, and so we arranged for him to, come and get a job where I was working at. I was working as a clinician, as a clinical counselor at a halfway house. And so we arranged for the brother to come down and, to have a job interview. The brother shows up with a pair of sneakers on, no socks on, a thobe on, and a kufi, and, when I went and I spoke to the brother he was the upper management. And he was like, he got the job. Just tell him to show up and go through the formalities. So after was over with, I walk into his office. I'm like, hey, how did the interview go? He was like, man, what's wrong? What's up with your man? He shows up with sneakers with no socks on and a thobe on. He's like, man, I can't do that, man. the point that I'm making is that having been raised by a man, you would have known that
Absolutely.
there's a time and a place for everything.
Absolutely.
There's a time, you would have known that there's a time and a place for everything. You know, there's a time to wear your thobe and, you know, go into the mosque and, you know, that's acceptable. That's acceptable attire in that environment. But when you go into for a job interview in a professional capacity, then it is expected of you to dress in a professional capacity.
And the burden becomes exacerbated, Imam, when you're dealing with a 30 or 40-year-old guy who doesn't want to learn, who thinks he's there and doesn't know what he doesn't know, and doesn't have the humility that comes with learning. See, learning is a discipline.
Absolutely.
Right? Like any other discipline.
Absolutely.
And you gotta shut up, sit down, and listen. And that's hard for an adult, much less an adult with testosterone flowing through his veins.
Yeah, right.
And a lot of people, their nafs, their ego, is so big. And again, you know, culturally, what comes with being black in this society, the that is necessary for us out here in the streets from time to time, because that's your defense mechanism.
Absolutely.
You get in trouble. And so if you don't have that you get eaten alive in some situations. I'm from New York, so you can't be soft, right? And so you are combustible. You become a ticking time bomb, and no one can tell you anything or show you the way. When I was coming up, alhamdulillah, I happened to have real mentors, from Boy Scouts to martial arts to you know, my professors at university and my father, because I grew up with a father, right? Mm-hmm. So and my father was at home until he died. Mm-hmm. So having a man around and having mentors around and being able to just follow some direction and take counsel. You know, the Prophet ﷺ says in one hadith that advice is the religion.
Absolutely.
Right? Nasiya, advice is the religion. Right?
Absolutely.
So you've got to be willing to take advice, and you've got to be willing to listen. And so you can't go in this home with this sister, with these kids, and you haven't learned the art of listening. You haven't learned the art of being just a solid guy, just a solid dude.
Right.
And that's a problem in our community.
There are some particulars that you need in that environment, in the home with the woman and children. You need to be a good listener. You need to be a good manager. Running a marriage is akin to running a business. You have to be a good manager. You got to know how to put out fires. You got to be emotionally intelligent. You got to know when to hold them, when to fold them. That all, you know, something Hassan Clay. Yeah.
You know, it's a whole psychology.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And that's not something that you're going to develop by reading books. Reading books is part of it. That's the theory of it. But the practical application of that comes with you surrounding yourself around men. When you look at the Prophet ﷺ and his companions, they created a brotherhood. They created a brotherhood within the religion, you know, so that, you know, they would learn. I mean, you take, for example, the migrants the immigrants who left Mecca and went to Medina. They were in a different environment. This is similar to men who convert to Islam, right? If we could use that metaphorically. Men who convert to Islam, you are leaving one environment, going into another environment that is unfamiliar territory. And what did the Prophet ﷺ do with the migrants, the immigrants that migrated from Mecca to Medina? That wasn't their territory. They didn't know how to make money in that territory. They didn't know anything about Medina. Mecca was a rural area, just rocks, pebbles, stones. Nothing grew there. You know, there were no trees. There were no, produce. There was no, everything was imported there. You know, they didn't grow anything there in terms of fruits and vegetables. They did all of that in Medina. So migrating from Mecca to Medina, that's foreign territory. So what did the Prophet ﷺ do to help offset, this lack of understanding, lack of knowledge? Was he paired them up with people that were from Medina so that they would teach them, the way. They would show them how to make money, show them how to grow fruit. Now they have to learn agriculture. They got to learn how to grow fruits and vegetables and trees and understand gardening. They got to understand that now. So this is similar to men who convert to Islam from environments that's similar to where we came from, where they didn't.
As we spoke before, when we had those few conversations, you and I, the reality is that this is, even though being a Muslim man is unique in its own way, a lot of what we're talking about is not unique to Islam, right? I mean, I came from the Christian tradition, right? As I said to you earlier, my undergrad is in, theology and Greek and Hebrew. So I was a Christian missionary and a Christian minister for several years. And I pastored and did all of those things. I sat in the chair that you now sit, right? And so, been there, done that, got the T-shirt, right? And the reality is, in Christianity, you have the same challenges, right? You have the same men that are broken, basically. Men that are coming from our experience as Africans in America, and being victims of this society, and being miseducated, according to Carter G. Woodson, right? And
shout out to Carter G.
Not knowing ourselves, right? Not knowing our name, not knowing our number, not knowing our flavor, just kind of wound up and programmed. And as a result of that, you see that all over our society. It's in the church, it's in the mosque, it's in the temple, it's all over the place. Now you come to Islam. Not only do you have those handicaps, I don't know if you play golf or not, but every golfer understands what a handicap is, right? You come to the game and like being in the streets, right? If you come to a game and you're not that good in basketball and you're playing one-on-one, I mean, dude may spot you a couple of points, right? So he says, okay, we going 20, but I'm going to give you 5.
Right.
Right. And I'm right, so he spots you something. Well, that's the handicap. Right? So if you're playing a game of 20 and you give him 5, he has a 5 handicap. Right? So what happens is that guy comes to Islam already with a handicap.
Already with a
handicap.
handicap.
He has a handicap.
Right.
He think right? He think he's LeBron or something. Right? But he comes to the game of life in Islam. And you tell him, Imam Shadid, he can have 4 wives. Right? So
ooh, you about to open up a door right here. Go ahead. I'm listening.
He's like, what? I can have 4 wives and I can marry and divorce and at will, it's up to me. And you tell him yes. And you quote him the hadith and you show him the
text,
in the
right?
Quran. I mean, he don't listen to the ayah, the first part of the ayah that says one is best if you only but knew. He goes straight to the 4.
Right.
Right?
Because he's operating from the handicap.
From the handicap.
There you go.
From the the handicap is one thing. Then you give him this information. He's not equipped to handle this information, bro. He is not ready to even hear that. I'm not suggesting keep it from him.
Right.
I'm not suggesting that. All I'm saying is with responsibility comes accountability.
Right.
Right.
And if you had been introduced to manhood properly, you would already know that with responsibility comes accountability. As a man, you already understand that. This is something that your parents have been prepping you for the entire time that you were living in their household.
Just because you can do something doesn't mean you do it every 5 minutes.
Right.
Right. Just because you can do something, right? So now he comes in this oasis of freedom of choice, and there is an imbalance with the men to women ratio,
right?
And there is a need based on all these categories of women that is in the mosque, right? So you have the under 30s. Right? They are in one category because they may have never been married. They are single women, no children, and all of those things. And so you have that grouping of women. Then you have the over 30s and maybe between 30 and 50. And again, these are all African American sisters from America, and you've got that grouping of young women, and now they have been married once, maybe even twice, right? And now they have children as well, right? And then you have the over 50 who have been, they are multiple divorcees, they have children as well. And they have all of the challenges with being an older sister, but still have the need for marriage and to protect their deen and be supported, in a home, not necessarily, economically, because, our sisters are self-sufficient as well. And they're not necessarily looking for, quote unquote, a man to take care of them, right? Right. But you've got a panorama of choices, right? And that brother sometimes goes through that whole kaleidoscope of choices. And after and he hasn't even adjusted at home yet, right, to the one wife. Now, remember, we said earlier, he is still growing up himself. Right. He still has a plethora of handicaps. He still has handicaps, but he's trying to adjust as a man, trying to grow as a man with this one situation. But then he realizes that he has a plethora of opportunities with other situations, and it's just kind of compounding. The problems, and this is what we are seeing in our communities today. And I want to say this quickly. Many people ascribe bad intentions to brothers. Okay? I have never met a brother. I'm sure they're out there, but I've never met them. They're not friends of mine. I've never met other brothers who met those kinds of brothers, but I've never met brothers who come to a marriage with like ill intentions to say, hey, listen, I'm going to just deal with this sister any kind of way. I'm going to mistreat her, or I'm going to drop a couple of babies on her and I'm going to leave. Brothers, I don't think have that mentality, right? Not from a general perspective. So when bad things happen to good people, when these marriages go south, okay, the reason that they go south, sisters, is not simply because that nigga was no good.
Mm-hmm.
It's not because, well, he was trash anyway. It's not because this guy had some bad intent necessarily. I'm sure there are those who do.
Oh, they exist. They exist.
For over a decade.
They the scholars, they have a phrase, عدم العلم بالشيء لا يدل على عدمه. The lack of knowledge of something doesn't mean it doesn't exist. But I get your point.
It doesn't exist.
I get your point.
It doesn't exist, right?
Right.
So there are bad people out here, but I have never heard anyone analyze a divorce based on cultural, socioeconomic, situational circumstances, lack of emotional intelligence, and all of the things that represents ills in our society. We are quick to be a disposable society, both men and women. Right? We're the McDonald's and the Wendy's and the fast food generation, right? If something is no good, we throw it in the garbage, and 9 times out of 10, it's good. There's nothing wrong with it. My wife and I, we had our anniversary last weekend, and we decided to go to Atlantic City and just hang out and stay in a nice hotel, watch the ocean, and walk the boardwalk, and that kind of stuff, right? So we're leaving now on Sunday, and the bellman says, brother, you need a bottle of water? I'm like, yeah, great. He says, I'll give you 2, right? I says, alhamdulillah. He is walking to my car with 2 bottles of water. Of course, the bottles of water, the seal is not broken or anything else. 1 bottle drops on the floor. He picks it up and throws it in the garbage. This is a sealed bottle of water. Nothing's wrong with this bottle of water.
Right, nothing wrong with the water.
Right? He is from a disposable society. It falls on the ground. I turned to my wife. I said, do you know how many children in Africa, in Europe, in third world countries, in Trinidad, where my people are from, would love, they are dying for lack of clean water.
Right.
And he just picks up this bottle and throws it in the garbage and just goes get me another one.
The disposable society. Right.
We are disposable. We do that with bottles of water. We do that with styrofoam cups.
We do it with children. Plates. We do it with husbands and wives. Absolutely.
We use it and we throw it. It's over with. It's done. So I'm with her. We are married. And as soon as there's a challenge, an issue, a problem, I say, you know what? I can have 4. Right? I divorce her. And divorce is, what I mean, from whatever path you belong to. I divorce you, I divorce you, I divorce you. Or I divorce you once, wait 5 minutes, I divorce you again. It's the easiest thing in the world.
Right.
And we go get another. Right? And that's a mentality, Akeem. That's a mentality. And that's a mentality that has come from our systematic problems as a race, as a people, as a culture, and our lack of personal responsibility in taking personal responsibility as men to educate ourselves and getting the information that we don't have.
Okay, so one of the things that you mentioned was, for men, African-American Muslim men, to be able to understand our own experiences as men and being able to recognize our areas of weakness, our areas of strength, and having a growth mindset to be able to, supplement those areas of weakness with knowledge, with education, with understanding. Why is it that we see, for example, in the Muslim community, when there's lectures or, any type of educational event, you will find that many of the brothers, are not in attendance. The women are there, The women are there. Rain, sleet, snow. The women are there. They want to learn. They want to educate. But when it comes to the men, you know, you'll find that, you know, maybe 2 or 3 out of 10.
I'll tell you, my father, who, I'm the only Muslim in my family, alhamdulillah, and I have 9 brothers and sisters.
May Allah guide them to Islam. May Allah guide them all to Islam, man. May Allah guide them all to Islam.
But before I reverted to Islam 26 years ago, I went to see my father, and my father was in the bed, and I was laying in the bed with him, and we were chatting and talking, and you know, it was time to get moving, and he got up and he began to put on his trousers. And when I looked over at him putting on his trousers, I saw this big hernia in his underwear. I said, Daddy, what is that? He said, oh, it's nothing. I said, nothing. Man, I held his hand and I looked at his groin area. A hernia as big as a grapefruit. I had him put his clothes on right away, go to the doctor. Of course, it was cancerous.
Of course.
Right? He ended up passing away a couple of years later after being diagnosed with cancer. Right? Now, my point is this. You don't have men at these meetings and at these places because they are just either ignoring the hernia or they don't invest in their own self-care. It's there, and to them, it doesn't matter. And so you have more men, statistically, medically, men's life expectancy is shorter than women's life expectancy.
Right.
You can Google it, check it. We die faster. We die earlier. Why is that? Is that genetic? No, it's not. We go to the doctor less. We are not that circumspect when it comes to taking care of our physical health. And we are also not that circumspect when it comes to taking care of our spiritual health. Women have what is called a sixth sense. Not because men don't have it. The sixth sense is essentially the pineal gland.
Right.
Okay? It is something that has come out of Egyptology.
Right.
Right? That middle eye, that ability to see, and all it is an example of women practicing and strengthening that instinct that they always have.
They always have.
They
right.
act on it.
Right.
Right?
They spend their entire lives sharpening that. They spend their entire lives sharpening it.
Yeah. Because they act on it, they have developed it. It's stronger, and it's they rely on it more. Right? Men don't rely on ours at all. We just shrug it off. Right? So women are in tuned to be somewhat more in tune with their emotion, with their spirituality, with their needs physically, with their needs spiritually, emotionally, than men are. So they tend to, Christianity is the same way, Aki. Right? Women fill the church. Right? Men are there, and not at the rates and levels of
the women.
Islam at the mosque. The mosque has much. If the mosque was a Christian center, the upstairs or wherever the musalla is, that would be where the woman would be, and the man would be downstairs or in the smaller place, because that's how much the woman outnumber the man in Christianity. So at least in Islam, you have a strong man presence.
A strong male
with
presence.
regards to Juma and involvement.
Well, I believe that's part and parcel because of, you know, it being the ritual. Ritualistically, yes, they're there. But as far as, you know, the building of it, the infrastructure, setting up the infrastructure and all of that, women play a very big role in that, even though they don't necessarily hold the same seats on boards of administration as the men do. But they are, you know, they are very involved.
They are tuned into the wavelength of the spirituality and the need, you know, what they need.
Right.
You know, and men rely on that less. But again, it's a lack of knowledge on our part because we don't need it any less.
Right.
We just don't subscribe to it as much.
Right.
You know. So
another thing that another point that you mentioned earlier, and that was you know, compartmentalizing the different categories of the African American Muslim woman. When brothers are seeking marriage, a lot of times it's like they don't look at the categories. They're not looking at the age groups. They're not looking at the socioeconomic status. They're not looking at her previous marital status. They're not looking at children. It's just like, okay, I want to marry a sister. I'm looking for a sister with no kids, you know, between the ages of 25 and 35. And that's pretty much it. You know, she's cute. She's this.
Their knee-jerk reaction is to go to that under 30 category.
Right. So can you kind of...
is usually that category.
So what I would like you to do for the men that are listening or who will, you know, get their hands on this discussion is, what does a man have to, you know, understand marrying a woman from a certain socioeconomic standpoint? You know, a woman from, you know, that has a higher degree. You know, a lot of brothers want sisters that are quote unquote educated. Okay, when you marry a woman that's educated, that's going to come with some challenges. When you marry a woman who has her own home, who works and has her own car, and you come in and you want to kind of use the religion to limit her access to those things. And this is where a lot of the conflict comes in, because a lot of brothers come in and they don't necessarily have those things. The woman has the home, she has the car, she has the good job, and then lo and behold, after being married to the man, it's like, okay, well, I don't want you working around non-Muslim men. Oh, you know, I don't want you leaving out of the house at this time. Or I don't want you hanging around with these sisters. And then little by little, they begin to steal away from the woman her autonomy. So I think that going into marriage, men need to understand what these women represent. If you're marrying a woman within this age bracket, what can you expect? When you're marrying a woman from this kind of socioeconomic status, what you can expect, because I don't think that our expectations of these women are realistic.
Well, I think you are absolutely correct, but I also think that, again, our minds play trick on us. Our minds play a lot of tricks on us, bro. It's hard for me to fathom that a guy is marrying a woman that has a master's degree in science, or like my daughter who has a master's degree in international security studies and terrorism, right, from George Washington University. And it's hard for me to fathom that you're going to see a young woman like that, that's Muslim, and think that you can control her, so to speak, right? That guy, I believe, doesn't understand himself. Because he's not thinking going in, I'm going to control her. He's not thinking, you know what? I'm going to have her locked up in a room so tight, she won't be able to do nothing but go to work and come home until I get ready. What eventually happens in that relationship happens over a period of time. And it happens based on how he sees himself.
Preach.
How he imagines himself.
Preach. Absolutely.
And what he is doing is struggling to get his own autonomy. He is fighting a battle for his own manhood. Because when she goes out or comes back late or does this or is making moves, his manhood is reduced and he himself feels threatened. She is rocking the way she usually rocks.
Right. Right.
She's rocking the way he met her.
This is what you met her on, right?
Just reinventing the wheel. This is who she was.
Right.
Right? But he has to restrict her movements, tries to control, tries to put it down, tries to put his foot down, tries to take charge. He is dealing with his own demons. And Imam, I think that rather than these masjids keep talking about marriage and marriage and marriage, they need to start having some men's groups. They need to start having some men's seminars. They need to start having some men's retreats. They need to start really helping us all to get our act together. So that when we welcome, listen, I used to say when I was a preacher, God created Adam and Eve, okay? But not in that order. He created Adam. It's the same in the Islamic tradition. After a while, Adam looked around and realized he was alone, right? He was like, dang, like the lions got, some peoples and the giraffes got some peoples and I'm by myself.
Right.
So he requested Eve. He requested her. And he already had this garden. He already had the place. So brothers, that should tell you, if you don't have a Garden of Eden, you're not ready to request nothing.
I love it. I love it. You gotta have the garden first.
So he's got his garden.
Right.
Allah gave him the garden. Allah put him in the garden.
Right.
Right? And then when he realized his condition, so you got to realize your condition. You got to realize your condition. You cannot go to this woman and tell her, I'm the catch. Nigga, you was alone. And you
Right. Hey, listen, Malik, let me tell you something. If it was permissible for Muslim women to marry outside of their religion, half of us wouldn't even be married.
I understand.
Wallahi, I believe wholeheartedly the only reason why most of us are married is because Muslim women are restricted in terms of the pool of men that they can select from.
Bruh, we were alone. You, me, and every brother on this call either was alone or you are alone.
Absolutely.
Right? And Adam requested Eve. He requested Hawa. Allah was gracious and most merciful. And he created this being and gave this being to the man. Now, what kind of man is that? Now that you requested a woman, you got the garden, Allah answered your prayer, your dua. Now you brought her there by your request. Now you start mistreating. Now you start putting your hands on her. Now you start calling her by the B word. You start doing all of this. You requested her. If you don't like her, then you need to check your own judgment, bro.
Right.
That was your mistake.
Absolutely. Own it. Absolutely.
okay, and do something to fix your mistake.
Rather than continuing to perpetuate the mistake over and over again, blaming, and this is a form of gaslighting, we'll blame the women, right? Meanwhile, we've done no work on ourselves. You know, there are workshops, there's counselors that are more readily available today than ever. There are lectures, there's so many, so much information, right? I was listening to this interview with Dave Chappelle, and he said, I'm an avid reader. He said, but with the creation of the internet, man, I haven't picked up a book in years, man. Just the tidbits of information that you get on a regular basis by glancing at your cell phone. I mean, it's so much information out here. How is it that we are still ignorant?
Yeah. And I still subscribe to picking up a book, though.
Absolutely.
Because... out here you've got to consider the source of this information, because there's so many fools writing things on the internet now.
Absolutely.
You just can hardly trust it, right?
Right.
But yeah, the fact of the matter is, man, we are, to borrow an adage from my martial arts training, we are the sensei. We are the Khalifa. Right? We are the responsible ones for this household, for this evening. Right? We were placed here. Right? And whoever she was over there minding her own business. And we, because we are hunters by nature, because we are men, we went out and we brought her into the fold. Right? And now that we brought her into the fold, we've got to treat her as the guest that she is. We've got to treat her as the queen that she is. We've got to treat her the way we are supposed to treat her, because we brought her into this paradise. And so that tells you a couple of things. You've got to make it a paradise, right? You got to make it a home. You got to make it a situation. And that doesn't mean that you've got to have some palatial home with hors d'oeuvres after every meal. But the reality is that you've got to improve her condition. Before Adam, Eve was only in the mind of God. Eve was only in the mind of Allah. So at least his request brought her forth.
Well, in the Islamic tradition, we would say she was already written in predisposition. The predisposition of
it's a part of the predestination.
Right, exactly.
It's a part of the predestination.
And Adam's request for her brought it into fruition. Absolutely.
Yes, but he was also predestined to ask for it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So it's all the qadr of Allah, right? No
Absolutely.
doubt, right? It's all, and the reality is that from a practical perspective, if we invite someone to dinner, we have to have the right decorum.
Absolutely.
We have to have the right adapt. We have to have the right manners, right? We have to be gentlemen, gentle men. We have to be Muslim. We have to be those who submit to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
So, real quick, before we begin to wrap it up, Malik, if you had 5 pieces of advice to give to Muslim men, what would they be?
First, know thyself.
Know thyself.
Yeah, you got to know thyself. And that self-knowledge leads to discovery. Right? Every man knows what they need. You've got to have courage. You've got to have courage to change.
Courage, that's number 2?
Yeah. And let me tell you what I mean. I hear a lot of men saying, at the drop of a hat, at the first opportunity they get, man, I wasn't always Muslim. I can do this and I can do that. I can change in a minute. I can go back to the street. Well, you're a fool. Saying those things make you a certifiable fool. Because let me tell you something. If religion don't change you, then you ain't got no religion.
Right.
If Islam doesn't change you, the whole purpose of this journey is transformation, brother.
Absolutely. Evolution.
You've got
Absolutely.
to have transformation.
Absolutely.
Right? So, and transformation takes courage. Transformation takes courage, right?
And not to cut you off, Malik, but I believe that is one of the reasons why a lot of, going back to the point that we made earlier, why a lot of brothers don't attend workshops, don't attend counseling, don't attend, because it's Marian Anderson, she I believe that's her name. She had a very famous quote, and she said, it's not our darkness that we fear, it's our light. We fear what we have the potential to be. So rather than having the courage, as you said, to go after what we have the potential to be, we have this fixed mindset that I'm going to stay exactly where I am. We become complacent with who and what we are. And as a result of that, we make the lives of everybody else that's evolving around us toxic. Everybody else around you is growing.
Because let me tell you it from a legal perspective, right? Sometimes it's not the crime that's the problem, it's the cover-up.
Woo! Say it. Say that again.
Okay,
it's not the crime, it's the cover-up.
The crime is the cover-up. Right? Because we go to so much lengths. Sometimes the crime is not premeditated. Sometimes the crime is spur of the moment. Sometimes the crime is unintended, but the cover-up is always premeditated.
A cover-up is always premeditated. Now you speaking your law language now, but I love it. The metaphor is on point. Absolutely.
Yeah, the cover-up, right? So there are a lot of us that understand our current position. We understand our weaknesses. We understand our shortcomings. We understand all these things about ourselves, but then we engage in the cover-up.
So for us as Muslim men, what is the cover-up? We using Islam to cover?
The cover-up is the beard. We get the long beard. We get the thobe. We get the this. We become super Muslim and all of this stuff.
It's just a cover-up.
That's the cover-up.
That's the cover-up. Boy.
That's the cover-up.
Woo. Man, oh
When
man.
you take that off, you still you.
You still the same Negro. You still you.
You
Absolutely.
still the same joker. The same joker. Right? But you doing such a good job in the cover-up.
That you get lost in the cover-up and then you forget about the real you.
Right, you start believing the cover-up.
You start believing your own lies. You start believing your own lies. Absolutely. Absolutely, man. SubhanAllah. Absolutely. Okay, so no.
Develop this alter ego.
Right, there you go. The alter ego. And that's what many of the sisters are marrying. They are marrying the alter ego.
Yeah.
They are marrying the alter ego. And then after, some time in the marriage, you can only, hide the real you, but for so long.
Listen, after Malik can't hide it no more, Tyrone comes out.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That's true stuff, man. Okay, so know thyself. Know thyself. Have the courage to change. Number 3.
Don't engage in the cover-up. Number three is you've got to invest in yourself.
Self-investment.
Invest in yourself.
And what do you, when you say in self-investment, what is that? Like holistically?
Self-investment, I think, is leads to emotional intelligence. Right? You've got to read. You've got to have conversations. You've got to talk with people. You've got to be you've got to invest in your own growth, right? You've got to have that emotional intelligence in order to even deal with yourself, even to understand yourself, right? You've got to have that emotional intelligence. I exercise my pineal gland. When I feel something, when I have an emotion, when I am overwhelmed with something, I actually take a minute. I take a minute to investigate that. I take a minute to retrospect. Right? I take a minute to self-evaluate. Right? And we all have to take that minute. We all have to take that minute. So, emotional intelligence is very important.
Okay, so self-investment. That's 3.
Yourself, right?
2 more. Number 4.
I would say a big one is accountability. I think I would have to say
meaning as a man holding yourself accountable.
Holding yourself accountable. Holding yourself accountable.
And what does that look like in real time? What does that look like? What does that look like in real time?
First of all, if you hold yourself accountable, you're not going to engage in the cover-up. Because you know you did it.
You know you did it. It's your mistake. Own it.
You know that was you.
Stand in your discomfort. Right. Absolutely.
And so it's okay, because if you hold yourself responsible and you have emotional intelligence and you have courage, you are able to say, sister, I'm sorry. You know, I shouldn't have said that. I shouldn't have done that. I apologize. That was all me. I'm going to take that on the chin. I'm going to do better next time.
I'll do better next time. Man, if we mastered that, we could come out of so many more conversations, man, in a healthy state. Just to master, just say, hey, you know, I'll do better the next time. I'm a work in progress. Bear with me. I'll do better next time. Duly noted.
I'll do better next time. And for me, submission to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
That's number 5?
Submission.
Is that number 5?
Yeah. And that's not cliche. And I'll tell you why. When you study this religion, and you understand the nafs, you understand the nafs, and you understand the stages of the nafs, and you understand where we are at in terms of the nafs process, and where we should be in terms of nafs mutmain. When you really understand this thing called Islam, as much as you can. I'm not talking about just having information. I'm not talking about knowing how to quote a hadith or knowing the last juz or being able to recite like a sheikh. I'm talking about understanding the deen at a fundamental level. And that for me is understanding submission. Understanding how to submit to Allah. So when you do choose a wife, understanding that she is half your religion, and being able to submit to that knowledge, being able to say to yourself, hey, listen, this is bigger than me and it's bigger than her. Right? This is a process for my own salvation. right? This is something that I have to do for me, and I have to submit to this process. I have to submit to the best that I could be. Just being the best you that you can be with Allah's help.
Right.
You know, with Allah's help. And that takes submission. And submission is the absence of arrogance. Submission is the absence of the I. Submission is the absence of all of those things, right? Submission, you've got to remove the mask.
Right. Well, from the very meaning of submission is to give up.
Yes.
So in order for you to arrive at a place of full submission, there's something that you have to relinquish, something that you have to give up.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, I used to tell a story that this young lady came to her mom and her hand was stuck in the jar. And she was like, my hand is stuck in the jar. And the mom did everything that she could, but she couldn't get her hand out the jar. Right? Then she called her dad, and the mom said to her husband, we're going to have to carry this girl to the emergency room. The husband said, let me look at it. You know, he's looking at the jar, looking at his daughter's hand in the jar. And he realized something interesting, that the young lady's hand she had a closed fist in the jar. And he says, honey, what's in your hand? She says, the quarter mommy gave me. And he said, well, in order to get your hand out the jar, you've got to release the quarter. And if you release the quarter, you can just pull your hand out the jar. That's submission.
There you go.
See, you can't hold on to that quarter. You can't hold on to whatever you're holding on to and say you still want to submit.
Right.
You've got to let it go. Whatever it is, you've got to let it go.
Gotta let it go.
And that's the only way to get your hand out the jar.
And that goes for, you know, how we engage in our marriages as well. We come in, as I use the metaphor that as men, sometimes we have this wall up. We've been building this wall for a long time. And then we got minions that guard the wall. You know, these minions could be ego, you know, could be, you know, arrogance, could be, you know, being dismissive, you know, and all of these other deflective mechanisms that we use, you know, to keep you at bay. And that is hurting us in our marriages in the worst. I mean, like, it's sad when you have a sister that reaches out to me and says, hey, you know, I want counseling. And I'm like, okay, well, where's your husband? It's like, oh, he's not coming to the counseling session. And it's just like, then how are you going to solve your problem? You created the problem together. She didn't create the problem by herself. So by you not showing up at counseling, you're basically saying it's all her fault. She can go to counseling if she wants to. I don't need counseling. I'm straight. I'm good.
It's the cover-up.
That's the cover-up. Okay, last thing, 5 pieces of advice for the women.
5 pieces of advice for the woman.
We've been kind of focusing on the men, so I want you to leave something.
I think the reverse of what we were saying about the man, in a lot of ways, is also true to the woman. I think she needs to understand the plight of the black man in America. I think she has to understand the plight of the black man. I mean, she has to understand that we are not dealt an even hand.
Right.
That the cards are marked. Oh, okay. We are not starting from the same starting line of everybody else.
Right.
You know, even the last to come in this country, be it the Arabs, the Koreans, or whoever, even the last to come gets put a little further downfield than the black man. And so she has to understand she really has to understand that. She has to understand that about him. That's number one. Understanding. And she has to be his peace. Brother.
Preach.
She
That
has to be
that
his
point
peace.
specifically. What does that mean, be his peace? Because some men may interpret that as, you know, just be the shut up and do as I say do and be the obedient wife. What do you mean when you say be her peace?
You can never be so wrong. Because if you think, when I was looking for a wife, people were like, I'm going to introduce you to this doctor, I'm going to introduce you to this judge, I'm going to introduce you to this and that, right? Sisters, let me tell you something, if I can. You can be fine as all outdoors. You can be making 6 figures, okay? And a lot of you really think that making 6 figures kind of puts you ahead of the line. That's a damn lie. That's just not true. I don't know who told you that, but you need to get that receipt.
You need to get that receipt.
That's just not true. Yeah, you need to get that receipt. Okay. They feel that they can be fine. They can you know, make money. They feel that they can have this, that, and the third. But let me tell you what I was looking for. I was looking for Sakina. I was looking for peace, brother. I was looking for, we will walk past your Mercedes. We will walk past
your 6 figures.
We will walk past your 6 figures, and we will go get that sister who is pleasant, who has a nice smile, and who is, according to the Commodore's Lionel Richie, easy like Sunday morning.
Right.
Okay, just peace. And a lot of women are not, you know, I don't know whether they drink too much coffee, they have too much caffeine, or what the problem is, but there's a lot of hype going on, right? Men, especially high value worth men, and I should know, right, want just to have peace and enjoyment with their wives. My wife and I have been all over the world, right? And we have traveled a lot, and we enjoy each other's company, because she is like, yo, it's like easy. It's like, you know, it's an easy relationship. It's no fuss. It's no, that doesn't mean that we don't have disagreements. We don't have arguments, because again, that's just the nature of people.
Right.
And in particular, you know, the black woman, again, is, you know, kind of feisty, right? So that's fine. But I'm talking about just being peaceful and being able to bring peace to me.
And learn how to resolve issues without allowing it to escalate beyond a certain margin. And this is one of the things that I teach in my course, The Divorce Remedy. I mean, the difference between an experienced couple and an inexperienced couple is not the absence of problems. It's they both have problems. It's just that the experienced couple has enough tools in their toolbox to solve the problems quickly so that they can get back to the state of, you know, the pre-conflict state.
And if both parties accept the concrete nature of the commitment, responsible for, which is the sanctity of marriage, if they are accountable for that responsibility, then they will know that neither of them are disposable.
Powerful.
Right?
Powerful.
Have a dishwasher in your marriage, man.
Wow. Powerful.
Put that problem in the dishwasher and let it come out clean.
Absolutely.
Stop trying to throw that thing in the garbage, because this is fine china.
Fine china. Okay, number 3. Really quickly, we're approaching our time. Number 3 for the women.
For the women, I think that women have to also know themselves. I think that is a quality that also is necessary for a woman as well, because a woman has to know her triggers, and she has to know what sets her off. She has to know that she has a mouth. She has to know that she's sassy, and she's got to know how to rein that in. Because you can't beat me. You can't fight me. I mean, you know what I'm saying? You can't bully me. So let everybody calm down here, and let everybody play their position. And by that I mean, let us understand what we are doing here in terms of the roles of who we are, the roles that we have agreed to.
The roles that we have agreed to, right.
The roles that we have agreed to. You know, I don't think there's any predestined roles like, you know, I'm the boss and you're just the minion. You know what I'm saying? I don't think so. Number 4, I think that women need to invest in partnership.
What do you mean?
Meaning that, especially women of means, Black women in particular have been tricked, bamboozled, run amok, and just fooled by the other races. You know, white women, after supporting their husbands for 400 years, after supporting their bootlegging, their stealing, their corruption, their illegal wars, after supporting all of that, and after staying back and watching their men rape our women and mistreat us for years.
I know where you're going. Please say it. Please say it.
Huh?
I know where you're going. Say it. I'm waiting for it.
All of a sudden, they want to come up with women's libs. They want to come up with all these independent movements that tells women we can do this by ourselves. We don't need nobody. We are on our own. And they're living in mansions and running around here for the most part, getting the Michael Jordans and getting all of our high income earners. And they're still running a number on us. And here these sisters are running around believing all that nonsense, right? And emasculating the black man and belittling the black man with the mistaken position that this is what freedom looks like for them.
Woo! Man, oh man. You just opened up a can of worms with that joint.
But that's what it is.
Woo!
That's
My
what it
goodness.
is, bro. And so,
wow.
I need my women to understand, like, who they are and what's really going on. Because you are not the target, really. I'm the target. Because the white man will promote you. He will make you VP. He'll make you whatever else. And he'll keep me in the mailroom because because he don't want to have to deal with me. You think it's about you.
Right.
But it's really not about you, sister.
It's not about you. Just a pawn. You're just a pawn.
For the 50-50 fake out.
Wow. I really sincerely hope you sisters are listening to this, because some of that feminism has kind of trickled over into the Muslim community. You know, prior to, this is one of the things that I really enjoyed about COVID, is that COVID put a stop to a lot of nonsense that was going on in the Muslim community prior to COVID-19. You know, there were a lot of, there was this feminist movement amongst Muslim women that kind of started with a lot of the Arab sisters, and then it trickled over into other communities. And then, of course, as African Americans, we always want to be the head of the pack. We're always going to take everybody else's movement and we're going to don it as our own. And what we did was we started this, toxic masculinity. We started this, Muslim men is this and this. And, it started to just run crazy in the Muslim community. And when COVID hit, man, it put a stop to, I haven't seen many of the Muslim women feminists since COVID.
We can't even have Father's Day. Can I have a Father's Day without all the sisters talking about, well, we are fathers too?
It's kind of
I mean, well, we are fathers too. We are raising the black man. Give me a break. I mean, give me that. Give me Father's Day. Can I have that?
And I mean, the thing about it is that the Prophet ﷺ, he prophesied that there will come a time where women would find companionship with other women. And it's almost like we are feeding, we're feeding that prophecy. We're feeding that prophecy, and understand that as you so eloquently mentioned, that the white woman and every other woman from every other culture, they will never abandon their men the way that our women will abandon us. Yes, there's a lot of bad apples. There's a lot of brothers that don't take care of their children. There's a lot of brothers that have discarded the women, that have, made the women disposable. There are a lot of, but can we simply say they are the majority? They're not the majority. They're a loud minority at very least. They're a loud minority, because if we said they are the majority, then that means that we are in dire straits, and we're not in dire straits. We just highlight the dysfunction more than we do the healthy relationships, the healthy, situations.
The fact of the matter is, white women and foreign women have always been a partner to their husbands. Until they decided that having tea and crumpets in the big house was not enough, and they started forming all these movements.
Right.
But for 400 years, and even today, they were always partners. Do you think Bill Gates and his wife just decided to get divorced? Why do you think Hillary hasn't divorced Bill Clinton?
Right.
They understand partnership.
Yeah. I mean, you go down to even with slavery, you had some of the white women who couldn't even produce children. They were okay with their husbands raping, the black women. There's this series that my wife used to watch, The Handmaid's Tale. And in one of the episodes, the woman, she has to be in the room with her husband, holding the slave girl down while her husband rapes her so that she could get pregnant so they can bear a child. And she would never turn, after all of these years, the wars, the pillage, the blood spilling, they will never turn on their man. African American men, with all of the dysfunction that we have been under, with the war against drugs, which was a war against the black family, all to the end of it. And we'll still have women, black men ain't this, black men ain't that.
If you choose that man, then you ought to have choose to be his partner. Choose to be his partner.
Choose to be his partner.
Choose to be his partner. Because anything less is just not right. Anything less is just not right. So I think that's what, 3 or 4.
That's 4. One more.
And again, I want to end up with the same number 5. Understand submission, because this Islam goes both ways.
Mm-hmm.
Just like you are 50% of my religion, I'm 50% of yours, right? And I am as important to your success as you are to my success.
Right.
And we have to check the nafs at the door. We have to check the nafs at the door, right? And when you really subscribe to that, and I'm going to give you an inside marriage. I'm going to speak in inside marriage vocabulary now.
Mm-hmm.
When you subscribe to that, then you reduce the recovery time in arguments. You reduce the recovery time. You know, some couples argue, have a disagreement, and that thing could go 2 weeks, 3 weeks. It can be exacerbated. Now we're staying in different bedrooms and all that kind of stuff. When you submit to Allah, subhanahu wa ta'ala, it shortens that recovery time because you check your nafs. You check your nafs. And you submit to the Quran and the Sunnah in a way that is pleasant and agreeable to both sides. And so that would be my last point.
Okay. Great points. Very poignant, very succinct. And we are definitely appreciative of the time that you have given us. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala place it in your scales on the day when you will need it the most.
Ameen.
This was a very heavy conversation. I pray that everyone listening is, digesting the information.
You may make too many people mad at me. Don't send me no nasty grants.
No, I mean, the truth is the truth is the truth. You know what I mean? There's nothing that we could really do that. I mean, we're only speaking our truth. People may disagree with some of the things that were said. I mean, you may have disagreed with things that I've said. I've disagreed with things that you said. This all perspectives. It's all perspectives. And that is the mature way of having a discussion. This is a dialogue, not a monologue. I'm listening. I'm taking in your perspective. I'm giving my perspective. People who are listening have an option to accept the perspectives, to understand them. The most important thing is to understand, right? Maybe we'll, and in the words of Malcolm X, maybe at a later date we'll meet at a higher level of understanding. But for right now, just try to grasp the concepts, grasp the perspectives. You don't have to necessarily agree. You don't have to make it a point that you don't agree. You don't have to send me a DM saying, I enjoyed the talk, but there was points that I didn't agree. Yeah, it's fine. You know what I mean? If you read any book, then you know that any author other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, can be faulty in their perspective. But that's just the way that it is. But here again, I appreciate you. And hopefully this is not the last time we'll have an opportunity to spend with you, inshallah.
Inshallah.
All right.
Inshallah. Thank you for the invitation.
No, my pleasure. Alhamdulillah. Jazakallahu khairan. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Okay, so that'll end our discussion. That'll end our session for today. Thank you guys for, brother, I hope you're on Kevin Samuel's payroll. What is that even supposed to mean? I don't even understand what that means. Anyway, moving right along. We kind of ran out of time. I wanted to leave some time for questions and answers, but inshallah, hopefully at another time, inshallah, we'll have him on. And brothers and sisters can ask questions, to get a deeper understanding. The purpose of me bringing him on was, number one, to usually when we bring people on, we're usually used to hearing students of knowledge, scholars, imams, and, the typical Islamic jargon that we, are kind of used to hearing. But I wanted to kind of bring someone on who was an older man. For us younger men that we're listening to an older man's perspective. We also wanted to bring I wanted to bring someone on that had a very, unique experience and a very unique, he was a Christian, he was a pastor, he studied theology from a Christian perspective and then converted to Islam, and seems to have a very good grasp of the religion. So you're getting both perspectives. He kind of alluded to some of the things that go on in the church. He alluded to the fact that, what we are experiencing in the Muslim community is not, unique to us. It is not something that, we're not monolithic. We're not, this is not something that we are not an anomaly, as Muslims, that they are experiencing a lot of things, even in his time in the church. They experience a lot of things. So I wanted to kind of, get that perspective, and hopefully, I appreciate, I don't know, you guys are having your own conversation over here, so I'm just kind of seeing, the messages go up, so I don't know who's talking to who. At any rate, I pray that you guys benefited from the talk, inshallah. It was recorded on audio as well as video, inshallah. I will make the video available on YouTube, and as well as our podcast, the Maradiya Show, the podcast. I will make it available on there as well, so you guys can, go back and listen to it and benefit from it, inshallah. Jazakumullahu khairan. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you all. Wa sallallahu ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam tasliman kathira. Wa akhiru da'wana anil hamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.